Good evening, baseball fans. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. And boy, oh boy, it's been weeks since we've hung out with you, so it's good to have you back. Dalton, how you feeling, my friend? You look tanner than normal. Or I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'm lying. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you might be imagining it a little bit. I tried to stay out of the sun, but yeah, the honeymoon in the Dominican was amazing. Got to talk to a few baseball fans down there, which was fun. Yeah, I mean, just very relaxing, and been home for about a week. Daughter's been on a little bit of a winning streak, which has been fun. So vibes are high. Excited to talk some ball.
Yeah, we've got plenty of stuff to talk about today. You texted me yesterday. You were just like, I can't. You were saying, listen, I'm getting back, and I can't wait to get going because there's tons of stuff to talk about. And he's exactly right. There certainly is. So stuff on the docket today. The absurdity that is Aaron Judge so far this season. We'll talk about that. And how Yankee fans potentially should be responding to him this season. We'll discuss that. The Baltimore Orioles right now are very much a topic of conversation. 5.5 games back out of first. Again, it's still relatively early in the year, but 13-20 is where they sit right now in their record. They're last place in the AL East. What's going on with them? What's wrong? We'll discuss that as well. We also have a fun little question a little bit later in the show today. I really appreciated this when you texted me this. Would you rather be a Chicago White Sox fan at the moment or a Colorado Rockies fan at the moment? We'll discuss that. But that's an age-old question that we will have the answer for coming up a little bit later on in the show. But Dalton, as the defending champion, the Los Angeles Dodgers, we begin with our teams. We rant about our teams. I'm the New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers. Dalton, fire away. The LA Dodgers, let's talk about that winning streak that we opened the show with.
Yeah, so, I think all things considered, it's hard for me not to be really happy with where the Dodgers are at right now. The injuries, like they were last year, are absurd already, especially on the pitching side. Teoscar Hernandez just left tonight's game with an injury, which is really not ideal. But you already have Tommy Edman on the IL. And then as we go back through the pitchers, Michael Kopech, Blake Snell, Blake Trinan, Clayton Kershaw, Tyler Glasnow, Edgardo Enriquez, Kyle Hurt, Giovanni Gallegos, Emmett Sheehan, Michael Grove, Brusdar Graterol, River Ryan, Gavin Stone. That's a solid major league pitching staff, all of whom are currently shelved. Now we're dealing with a few position player injuries as well. But this team was basically built to sustain it, and they are sustaining it. I thought they went through a part of their schedule that was pretty challenging early on and weren't playing great ball for a little while, but you look up and you're still, in pretty good shape. And then you look at the schedule and it's homestand against the Pirates and Marlins. And it's like that's where it is. That's where they get right. And sure enough, they took 5 out of 6 there, won their series in Atlanta this weekend. They're handling business in Miami so far tonight. So here we are again. Dodgers have the best record in baseball, despite the fact that they didn't play that well throughout April. And, I think they're right about where we thought they would be and humming along. So hopefully guys can get healthy, but I'm a lot more concerned with what our roster looks like, heading into September and October than I am right now. For right now, I just want to win enough games and avoid major injuries. So, all's good here. Haesung Kim got his first major league hit tonight, so congrats to him. Ohtani been doing his thing. Freddie Freeman playing at an MVP caliber level, which has been awesome to see. It's made up for guys like Mookie and Muncy struggling a bit. I also want to call out Andy Pages, who over the last couple of weeks has been one of the best hitters in baseball. He seems to have figured it out, which is really exciting because that's the hitter he was at all levels of the minors. So good vibes.
And kind of biting you in the ass too. And he's kind of shoving it to you, right? Didn't he just say like a few weeks ago, we're just like the Dodgers might have to give up on the old Andy Pages thing. And then almost immediately after that, he starts clicking.
He just needs me to call him out,
Yeah, that's the motivation.
And I managed to pick him up on both my fantasy teams, so it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, see, there we go. I anticipate the Dodgers to have a fairly solid run over the next like 2 weeks. I mean, they have 2 series coming up against the Diamondbacks. But in between that, right now they're currently starting a series at Miami, and then the next week after they play a 4-gamer in Arizona, they get the A's and the Angels both at home. So
yeah,
I expect that record to inflate quite a bit within the next 2 weeks or so.
Well, and they're going to need it too, because I don't know if you've looked at the Dodgers June schedule, but it's nuts, and we can talk about that as it gets closer. But the team schedule, I mean, I'll give you a quick rundown of it. Once we get to June, it's Yankees, Mets, Cardinals, Padres, Giants, Padres, Nats, Rockies, and Royals. But the first half of June, at least, where you go Yankees, Mets, Cardinals, Padres, Giants, Padres.
That's a daunting like 2-week stretch. Like I shouldn't even say 2 weeks, more like 3-week stretch.
And actually, it starts in mid-May. So they go Arizona, New York,
Mets.
Yeah. So that they've got like that mid-May to mid-June is going to be pretty challenging. So I'd like to see them stack some wins now. Tread water through that, and then the rest of the way, the schedule is not too crazy. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about anything at this point.
If any Dodger fan is like, I don't really know what to tell you. Listen, you're still, first of all, the Dodgers play in the toughest division in baseball. That's been made perfectly clear by the NL West, by the way. And they're sitting atop of it, and they don't have their best roster on the field. So I think that's enough to be said there. Now let's move to the Bronx Bombers, who have been more like the Bronx, like that. Like that's kind of where I'm at right now. They're first in the AL East. Okay, they're 19-15 on the season. Whoop-de-doo. I will say this about the Yankees. They certainly seem to have figured out how to remain about 500 for the first month of the year after starting out incredibly hot. They've dealt with some injuries. Okay. It's been a rough week or so, losing 2 out of 3 in Baltimore, losing 2 out of 3 at home to Tampa Bay. That's obviously not what you want to see in this past week. I also think that it's interesting that we are 7-0 in games where Max Fried starts, who has been incredible so far as a Yankee. And we are 12-15 in games where Max Fried does not start. So that I think is something. The starting pitching certainly needs to improve outside of Max Fried. Carlos Rodon's been fine, but outside of that, it's been a whole lot of like bumpkin. Like it's really just been, Stroman's been meh. Will Warren has been meh. Carrasco has been meh. And I think that that's kind of what you expect. Clark Schmidt is still kind of, and he hasn't been bad, but Clark Schmidt is still kind of recovering from the injury through his first couple of starts of the year. So we need him to start picking it up. They definitely miss Luis Heel, I think, in that rotation as well. So I do think reinforcements are coming, but some of these starts are getting pretty costly. Like we're losing games, we're losing some games pretty early. We get down 3-0, 4-0 in the first 3 innings, and then it's almost game over from that point. It's really tough to climb back in a league now where every team's bullpen has a guy with a 101-mile-an-hour cutter in it. You know what I mean? So it's tough to come back in baseball games when everybody's bullpen is kind of nasty. So that's something I think that needs to be pointed out. Listen, I think the main concern that Yankee fans had over the offseason was Jason Dominguez is going to be really bad in left field. That hasn't been the case. But what has been the concern, I think, is what most people felt really sure about, is that Devin Williams has been awful as a Yankee so far. And actually, he's been pulled from the closer role temporarily. Aaron Boone's made that clear. So they're going with Luke Weaver, and Luke Weaver's been dynamite ever since he got here. So, I'm not really concerned about that aspect, but we traded for Devin Williams expecting him to be one of the premier closers in the game, one of the top 2 or 3 closers in the entire game. And he's turned out to be worse than Clay Holmes. So this is a point where sometimes it takes him a little bit to figure out. The first couple of weeks of the season, it's been noted in Devin Williams' career where it takes him a couple of weeks to sort of figure it out. He kind of struggles and then he, dominates for the next 5 months. It just doesn't seem like it's there. Velocity's down. Stuff is down. He doesn't look like he's confident, right? And now Yankee fans are, kind of in a silly way turning on him because everybody feels like he's the reason that they changed the whole beard rule and now he sucks. So, what the hell is wrong with that? He changes the beard. People are teasing him all right, you got to shave the beard off until you start pitching better. I think that's pretty funny. But the positive is obviously Aaron Judge has been great. Paul Goldschmidt has been very, very good. The Yankees are scoring runs. They are finding ways to score runs. And we had concerns about this lineup. But I think pitching is really where we're starting to lose it here. It's been a relatively up and down, inconsistent season. And Dalton, you've kind of had the same sentiment of just listen, if they can coast for a little bit until they get a little healthier, then that's fine. But Yankee fans, I think, are wanting a little bit more than that, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them for wanting more. They're the Yankees, that's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But in the grand scheme of things, the Yankees lead baseball in home runs. They're top 3 in runs scored. So they're making up for it with elite offense. Starting pitching hasn't been awesome. They're 17th in starting pitching ERA, but they are 7th in the bullpen. So despite Devin Williams, they've managed okay, I think, for the most part. And he is a guy still that I'm betting on to turn it around, but it is frustrating that we're now into May and he hasn't yet. So it's worth monitoring with him. I don't know if you can ride that all year, right? Eventually you're gonna have to make a change if it doesn't figure itself out. So,
right.
But again, 19 and 15, you can't be too upset about it. That's not a horrible place to be. And, the Yankees play in what is apparently a really bad league, not just division. It's pretty remarkable the difference right now between the two. And
oh my God,
because of that, I mean, look, we're going to talk about the Orioles in a minute, but the Orioles are, from a talent perspective, the team that should be threatening the Yankees.
Yeah.
And the Orioles look like a mess. So, I think if the Yankees just do what they do, they've got the inside track in that division, which in the American League is probably going to get them that bye and home field advantage. So, all in all, I think if you're a Yankee fan, you feel okay about where you're at, but certainly the guy that you spent all that money on in the closer role, you want to see him pitch better.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair to Devin Williams, he's made, I think, 3 appearances since being taken out of the closer role, and he's thrown 3 scoreless innings. So if that's the adjustment that needs to be made, again, and I think, Aaron Boone said it, it's temporary. I fully expect Devin Williams to go back into the closer role at some point, but because we know what he is. We know how nasty this dude is. We know what he's capable of doing. If this is just a matter of trying to get him more comfortable and, kind of forcing him to find it in a less crucial role than what the closer is, I'm fine with that. Luke Weaver's capable of holding that role for the time being. I would even make the argument Luke Weaver's probably capable of holding and keeping that role based on how he's pitched so far in the Bronx. But like we said, we have plenty of stuff to go over today. Let's give you a little bit of score update. Right now, the Yankees and the Padres still scoreless heading into the bottom of the third. That is Nick Pivetta and Carlos Rodon in that matchup today. Dodgers right now on with a 6-0 lead over the Marlins in Miami in the bottom of the 6th. Who got roughed up in that one? Did the
Sandy again.
Sandy Alcantara. He's really had a poor start to this
You know,
season.
and the thing about Sandy too, even in his Cy Young season, the Dodgers, I think, scored 5 runs against him twice. Throughout his career, his numbers against the Dodgers are like obscenely bad. Like it's like unfathomable how hard the Dodgers have hit him his whole career, even when he's been in his best. So you can imagine when he's not at his best. I mean, because the Dodgers just did this to him last week. But by the way, on those Marlins, they are so much worse than their record. Like, 'cause I actually sat and watched 3 full Marlins games last week when they were facing the Dodgers, and dude, they can't make basic plays in the field. I mean, it's bad. The defense is horrible.
They are among the worst in every defensive and pitching category. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, too, offensively, it's not just that they don't have great hitters. Now, Kyle Stowers looks awesome, but they don't take disciplined at bats either. Like, they go up there and are just hacking and not hacking effectively.
Right.
I was like pretty shocked by what I was looking at with that.
You were shocked by the Marlins being this bad?
I knew they were bad, but like, man, I got to put my cap to just how bad they are. By the way, for his career, Sandy Alcantara has a 9.66 ERA against the Dodgers over 7 starts.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Yeah, listen, what I'm looking at now, by the way, through 6 starts, this does not include tonight, I don't believe. Sandy Alcantara in 6 starts, 26 innings pitched, 8.31 ERA to start the season. He's got 19 Ks in 26 innings. He has not had a good year. He has 19 Ks and 17 walks. Like, he's almost walking as many guys as he strikes out. Like, this is not, and we talked about Sandy Alcantara as somebody who teams are going to covet at the deadline, and that might still be true as trying to find lightning in a bottle, but this is not the kind, like, if you're the Marlins and you're trying to sell him off, this is not the kind of return, that you're going to be expecting come trade deadline time. It just has not been a good start so far for the Marlins starting pitcher. So Dodgers up 6-0 on them in Miami. The Braves right now with a 4-0 lead in the bottom of the 4th against Cincinnati. That's in Atlanta. White Sox and Royals still scoreless in the top of the 3rd. Astros and Brewers still scoreless in the bottom of the 3rd. Giants and Cubs still scoreless in the bottom of the 3rd. With the Pirates leading the Cardinals in St. Louis 2-0 heading into the 3rd inning as well. The Guardians-Nationals game got postponed today due to bad weather. That's in Washington. And then later on tonight, the Mets and the Diamondbacks in Arizona at 9:40. Griffin Canning and Ryan Nelson get the start in that one. Griffin Canning has actually been fairly good for the Mets this year. 4-1 with a 2.61 ERA so far for Griffin Canning for the Mets. And then the Mariners and Athletics in Sacramento with Bryce Miller and Luis Severino on the mound for that one coming up at about 10 o'clock. So there we go with that. Let's move in to our first discussion of the day, the Baltimore Orioles right now. Listen, we had predictions going into the season. And if I can, let me see if I can actually, where did I put them somewhere? Here it is. So we had predictions going into the season. And you and I both had, and we felt pretty confident about this too, Dalton, where the Orioles, we both had the Orioles as playoff teams. I had them in the 5 spot. You had them in the 4 spot to begin the season, making the playoffs in the American League. So far, they have not been on track to do that. 5.5 games back of first place. They are in last place in the AL East. They sit at 13-20, and they just have not been a good baseball team to start. They've been very mediocre at the plate. That was something that was supposed to help them throughout the season after losing Corbin Burns. This is a team that is among the bottom, second to last, third to last in virtually every pitching category. They're 28th in runs allowed, tied for 29th in hits allowed, 29th in batting average against. I mean, teams are almost hitting 300 against their pitching staff right now. They're not striking anybody out. They've given up the most home runs in Major League Baseball right now as a pitching staff. This is something going wrong with the Baltimore Orioles. Oh, hey, Trent Grisham, another home run. He's been fantastic. Anyway, back to the Orioles. They have been really disappointing. I'll say that. And a lot of people had very lofty expectations on them. So, Dalton, let me ask you, what is going on with the Baltimore Orioles? Is this just who they are? Have they hit a wall? Is it a manager thing? What is it with the Baltimore Orioles right now?
So I think with the Baltimore Orioles, look, the offense hasn't been great. We know that. The pitching is the real elephant in the room for them.
It's terrible.
As a staff, they're second worst in baseball, pitching-wise, in terms of ERA. The number is 5.43. Only the Miami Marlins have been worse. The Colorado Rockies pitching has been better than the Baltimore Orioles this year, to give you a sense of where they're at. Yeah. And look, I think some of it is self-inflicted and some of it's not. Like, obviously, you were expecting that Zach Eflin would be healthy, right? You'd like to have Kyle Bradish healthy. But the reality is that we knew that they needed pitching. And instead of getting involved on guys like Max Fried and Blake Snell, they went and signed a fossilized version of Charlie Morton. Yeah. And they signed Tomoyuki Sugano, who is 35 years old and pitches to contact, and he's been surprisingly okay. But
yeah, he's been about their only good starter.
They didn't really do anything to solve the pitching problem. In fact, it got worse, and guys inevitably got hurt because that's what happens in April. Pitchers get hurt every year in April across baseball. It's what happens. Yeah. And they weren't prepared for that. They didn't make an effort. I was listening to another show, the Suspended Family Barbecue show. I don't know if you are familiar with those guys.
You were listening to another show?
But I was listening to their show last week, and they shared a stat that I'm like, I have to bring this in on Monday. And obviously, I'll credit Jake Mintz from Suspended Barbecue for it. Since Mike Elias took over as their general manager, which I believe was 2019, okay? The Orioles have been through 6 drafts over that time. They've drafted 63 pitchers through those 6 drafts, okay? Mm-hmm. How many of those 63 pitchers that the Orioles drafted have pitched one major league inning for the Orioles?
I'm going to guess it's bad. I'm going to say like 3.
0.
Wow. Really? 0?
Think about that. Since 2019, that's 6 drafts. You draft 63 pitchers. Not one of those pitchers that they drafted has pitched a single major league inning for the Orioles.
So that's understandable for guys that they may have drafted this year or last year or maybe the year before. But you're getting to a point now where, like, okay, guys that you drafted during COVID are not making their major league debut by this point.
They are the only team in baseball of whom this is true, which speaks to what I think is a massive organizational failure to develop and attract pitching. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you think about a team like the Orioles where you have so much young talent.
Right.
Part of what's exciting for them over the last couple of years, but gets less exciting year in and year out now, those guys become more expensive every year through arbitration, and they get closer to their walk year every year, right? Like, you're paying Adley Rutschman more this year than you did last year, and so on. And so every year the belt gets tighter, right? Your opportunity to make the team better is a little bit less than it was the year before, especially if you're a team like Baltimore that nobody thinks is going to all of a sudden balloon to a $350 million payroll. And so the problem for the Orioles, as I see it, is actually pretty simple. They don't develop pitching well, and they haven't gone out and invested in pitching when it's very obvious that they needed to go all in on doing so.
Yeah.
You put those two things together. I mean, they're lucky they have Felix Bautista and Yennier Cano, but Mike, I actually think this team's going to end up selling.
Yeah.
And you start to think about what that might look like. I think, you know, some obvious candidates like Tyler O'Neill probably ends up on the move if they sell. Mm-hmm. The starting pitchers across the board, right? Even Eflin, I could see them sending away if they sell.
Yeah.
Do they end up moving Felix Bautista or Yanier Cano? I wouldn't rule it out.
No, I don't like can't imagine they would trade somebody like Gunnar or somebody like Adley Rutschman,
right.
But does like Jordan Westberg become available, right? Like that's a good point, right? Does Jordan Westberg become available? Does Cedric Mullins become available at some point as well? Like some of those names I think could be realistic.
Yeah. Ryan O'Hearn, yeah.
Right.
And so I think like it's tough because from a hitting side, like they've been okay. I mean, they haven't been great.
It's been very mediocre.
But I'll put it this way, like it's been a little bit worse than average. You expect that to improve, or at least I do, right? Like I think their hitting will end up 12th in the league, not 20th, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I don't see a pathway for the pitching to get better.
No, like, it's just bad. It's just bad. They don't have good pitchers on their roster, period.
It's bad, and like it's not going to get So I at this point, if you were to ask me to set an over-under on the Orioles wins this season, I would set it around 75. I think they're toast. And I usually don't say that about teams a month in. I think they're toast.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't disagree. I mean, listen, I think what the Orioles have gotten, obviously what they've gotten out of their pitching has been terrible. But I also think that it's worth mentioning that, like, Gunnar Henderson is hitting 260 as a 733 OPS, right? Adley Rutschman, who's the best young catcher in baseball, right, is hitting 216 and he has a 680 OPS. This is now turning into 2 straight years of Adley Rutschman not getting the job done at the plate, right? Like, I'm not even concerned, really. I shouldn't even say I'm not concerned. I'm not even really focused in on how terrible their pitching is, because I think a lot of people expected their pitching to be fairly bad. Maybe even, if not this bad, but pretty bad. Like, are the Orioles just this? Right? Like, are they just like, is Adley Rutschman a guy who's going to hit 240? I think Gunnar Henderson is maybe the outlier in this. Like, I expect Gunnar Henderson to rake almost on a yearly basis, but like Jackson Holliday has been solid, I guess, this year. Like, is Jackson Holliday just a guy? Like, is Heston Kjerstad just a guy? Like, they have all these young up-and-coming pieces. I mean, we talked about the Orioles as if they were like the next coming of what the Houston Astros used to be, right? When the Astros had Springer and Altuve and Correa and Bregman coming up, right? And they had all this pitching and all this, and all they needed was to supplement that with some veteran pitching like Verlander and Greinke and these guys, right? Like, they were set to go, completely set to go. I don't get that feeling with this team. Like, no. I just don't think that this is a team that, like, none of these young guys are really turning into what we expected. Adley Rutschman was a top prospect in all of baseball. Jackson Holliday was the top prospect in all of baseball. And are they serviceable big leaguers? Yes, they are. But, like, if we're seeing, and I know that, like, maybe some people are going to look at this and be like, wow, this guy's crazy because Adley Rutschman has turned into such a big name in baseball already. But, dude, he's hitting 216. Like, the guy's OPS is under 700. League average OPS is what, 720? Like, it's not to a point where, like, your number one overall prospect coming into the game, who was good his rookie year, we're now getting a full year and a half so far of really subpar at-bats and subpar offensive production. Like, that's my main concern with the Orioles is, like, yeah, their pitching is bad, but, like, what ceiling do they really have if this is what they're getting out of their offense that was so highly touted? Like, am I making sense here? That's kind of what I'm seeing with them.
Well, I mean, I think some of it is some of these younger guys are kind of just hit a ceiling, got figured out a little bit, and have to adjust back, right? Like, that's part of being a young hitter. And, I do think that there will be some bouncing back. Like, I agree with you on Gunnar Henderson. Adley Rutschman, I'm not sure is that great of a hitter. Like I think 240 for him with 20, 25 homers is about right. And look, that's solid production from a catcher in the big leagues. Like you'll take that nowadays from a catcher, but it's not, it's not all, it might be all-star level, but it's not, I'll put it this way. You're not looking at a Will Smith, right? You're not looking at like a, Cal Raleigh even, right? Where the power numbers are enough to really supplement it. So, no, I think it's a real concern offensively for them too. I just think the pitching is going to be so bad all year that even if their offense figures it out, they're going to be an average team at best.
I agree.
And here's something pretty wild too. I'm looking at run differentials across baseball right now. There are only 2 teams in baseball with run differentials worse than them: the Rockies and the Angels. The Baltimore Orioles run differential is 31 runs worse than the Chicago White Sox right now.
That's crazy.
Like they're not just like this isn't fluky. They're getting their ass beat, man.
No,
like
they're getting crushed. Yeah, they're not a good baseball team right now. That's really like something. Now let me just sort of like a side discussion. Okay, I'm not calling Adley Rutschman a bust by any means necessary. I don't want to paint the picture like Adley Rutschman's a bust because he's not. I think he's a very solid player. But you look at a bunch of the top catcher prospects, and I mean like top, like top 5 in baseball that have come up in baseball recently, right? Like Adley Rutschman, Francisco Alvarez, right? Gabby Moreno. Like these guys are like, they're young catchers. They're serviceable big leaguers. Don't get me wrong, but they're top 5 prospects in baseball. Okay. Is this not like the perfect precedent to set in Major League Baseball, where if you have a prospect, a catcher prospect that highly ranked, trade him? Like, because if that's the kind of production you're going to get, and I'm not saying like, because Will Smith, for example, right? Will Smith, you could probably make the case right now as the best catcher of baseball. Wilson Contreras probably is in. William Contreras,
yeah,
not Wilson, but William Contreras is probably in that discussion as well. But like Will Smith wasn't a top 10 overall prospect in baseball. He never was, right? But somebody like Gabby Moreno was. Somebody like Francisco Alvarez was. Adley Rutschman was. Like, if you're getting these catchers that are okay, like having a great catcher's valuable. It really is. Everybody knows that in baseball ever since the dawn of time. But if the upside for that is 240 and solid defense, where's the value? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that I kind of push back on. Am I nuts for saying that?
No, I mean, I think it's an interesting thought for sure. I do think you could probably find certain players to play devil's advocate to that with. Mm-hmm. I think William Contreras is one of those guys. But I think what you're getting at is that maybe we're not that great at identifying elite catching prospects from an offensive perspective.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that is possibly pretty true. So yeah, no, I don't think it's a bad. I don't think it's a bad way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just think it's something that I don't know, something that I felt needed to get addressed. Anyway, on to somebody that actually can hit. Aaron Judge doesn't exist on this planet. I named the show Aaron Judge Isn't Real because I'm genuinely beginning to believe that he's just a mythical being at this point. And yes, I will talk about him this way because he's a New York Yankee, and God almighty, am I happy that he's a New York Yankee and not somebody else. So far, Aaron Judge this season, 423, 11 homers, 33 RBIs on the year, an OPS of 1287, leads the majors in hits. He leads the majors in virtually every offensive category. The only offensive category that he really doesn't lead in is home runs. He's tied for second in home runs in Major League Baseball. Only Cal Raleigh has more. Aaron Judge is hitting 423. His teammate Paul Goldschmidt is next in baseball at 349. And Aaron Judge and Teoscar Hernandez are tied at 33 RBIs apiece so far this season. So here's the question, Dalton. First of all, we don't need to discuss how good Aaron Judge is, because we already understand that. But the thing that you brought up to me that I think is interesting is, because Aaron Judge can do this, like, is it reasonable still, or I shouldn't even say still, is it reasonable at all for Yankee fans to still kind of crap on him for what he's done in the postseason so far in his career, right? Because especially last year, right? World Series run, Aaron Judge was not great in the playoffs. You know, like, outside of the home run in Game 5 of the World Series last year, he really was almost a non-factor in the entire postseason. Like, should Aaron Judge have a clean slate because of this? Like, what's your take on this whole thing? Should Yankee fans be holding Aaron Judge hostage over his postseason performances?
Yeah, it's the challenging thing about this is, and I mean, I've had this discussion a million times with guys like Clayton Kershaw over the years to a much more aggressive degree, but even guys like Kike Hernandez, when you look at the flip side of it, where it's like, that's a different player.
Season.
Yeah, like, in the regular season, Kike annoys the hell out of me, and then in the postseason, oh, there he is.
Turns out, right?
And I don't think it's fair yet to label Aaron Judge as like one of those guys, but he's a career 205 hitter in the postseason.
Yeah,
and I mean, you look at like that, the World Series 222 with one homer, 167 in the ALCS, 154 in the ALDS. Hasn't been good. And that's with 20 strikeouts. Yeah, 20 strikeouts across 14 games in the playoffs last year. Yeah. So, it hasn't been pretty. My question, as far as how I evaluate it, I think it's one of two things. Either it's, hey, you're talking about a 58-game sample size for his postseason career. That's not that many games. Like, it's just not. It could just be he happened to have not hit well at those times. Here's the flip side of it. He's 33 years old now. Like, he's not old, but he's 33. Like he only has so many postseasons left, right? Probably 4 or 5 if the Yankees are lucky, right? You hope.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So realistically, he's probably played in more than half of the postseasons he's going to play in, which is a weird thing to think about, but it's the truth with him.
Yeah.
And so, like, I do think this is something that is going to continue to hang over him, whether he wants it to or not. Doesn't mean he can't change the narrative. He can change the narrative in 1 year, right? If they get to the World Series, it's a great World Series and they win it.
Right.
One question that I want to ask about it, though, is when Aaron Judge goes cold, to me, it feels like it's usually a lot of swing and miss. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not a guy who's just all of a sudden rolling over balls and, all of a sudden having his bat broken all the time. Like, when he goes bad, it's a lot of swing and miss. And when you look at his baseball savant profile, it's like the most beautiful thing you'll ever look at. But he does swing and miss quite a bit, right? Yeah. Like, his strikeout rate's around league average. His whiff rate is about 25th percentile. So he swings and misses more than most hitters. And that's okay. He's incredible when he makes contact, and he makes a lot of contact. But it does bring to my mind, we've seen over the years, once you get into the postseason, every pitcher is a little sharper than they are in the regular season, right? Mm-hmm. Every breaking ball's got a little extra bite. Every fastball's got an extra tick or two on it, right? They're rising to the top of the zone. I do wonder if his swing and miss profile being what it is makes him slightly more predisposed to that swing and miss getting more exposed in October.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything to that, but it makes a little bit of sense to me. What do you think?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Here's the thing. I've always been I've always been an Aaron Judge defender when it comes to his postseason woes, right? Because Aaron Judge's career is a tale of two different stories. Okay. Aaron Judge I know that the numbers look like he's been this level of player for a while. He hasn't been, okay? Aaron Judge in 2018 is not the same Aaron Judge he is now, regardless of what the OPS says, right? His career OPS is 1,020. Like that's the best of all time if his career ended right now, okay?
Yeah.
But like I watched Aaron Judge virtually every game before COVID, okay? So you saw several years of Aaron Judge in the playoffs where the guy was striking out 150, 200 times a year, and that's not who he is today, okay? Today, he's a much better overall, regardless of his home run numbers. He's a much better overall hitter. His at-bats are better. He's a better player today than he was then. That's not that hard to figure out. So I've always been a defender of just like, listen, if you're going to see, and even if, like I said, the sample size is small, it's even smaller now based on the kind of career he's had in the second half of his career. You cut that number in half, right? But to your point, he's 33 years old. Like, how much more postseason is this guy going to get? I would imagine that, again, he's the guy who's sticking it out for them right now. Okay, Aaron Judge is the reason for the Yankees' success. There's no doubt about it. Like, if he's the guy driving the bus and he falls and he ages poorly in the next few years, who knows? He might have 2 or 3 runs left in him, and that might be the end of it. Because who knows? By the time, listen, baseball has a funny way of working with this stuff, okay? By the time Aaron Judge hits 36, I mean, he could be hitting 260, and he's still a productive major leaguer, but maybe not the MVP that we know now, right? Like,
yeah, and he's 6'7".
Right. Exactly.
That's
it's a lot of body to carry around.
Great,
Right. Exactly. It's a lot of body to carry around. So I understand all that. However, I do want to say this about Yankee fans in general, and I completely get in a lot of ways why most baseball people despise Yankee fans, is because even though Aaron Judge in the last 5 years, I'll even give him, has been sensational. Well, he isn't good at the playoffs. Like, shut the fuck up. How about that? Like that to me is what drives me insane, is that Aaron Judge is literally hitting 400. He's hitting better than 4. He's like Luis Arias, but with power. That's the crazy part, is that we thought like Aaron Judge, whatever he hit last year, right? He hit 320 last year. We thought Aaron Judge hitting 320 was like absurd for a guy who's 6'7", strikes out a bunch, and hits a ton of home runs. That doesn't happen, right? Now he's like Ted Williams. Okay, but hey, listen, in the World Series, he wasn't very good. Shut the fuck up. The guy, you realize that the World Series doesn't exist without Aaron Judge, right? It doesn't exist. We don't get there without Aaron Judge. As much as we love Juan Soto last year, Aaron Judge not being on this team or performing poorly, we are not there, period, in a poor American league. So every Yankee fan, do me a favor and cut the guy a break. And I understand that, listen, it's New York and it's the Yankees and it's the postseason and everything. I get it. The expectations. Listen, I've lived it, okay? But at the same time, we're like, listen, if the guy's hitting 400, cut the guy a break. I don't know. It's crazy. That's how I.
There's something to be said for just, can you enjoy the ride for a minute?
Shut up.
Yeah.
I just.
I get it.
God.
He's just, he's a fascinating player when you look at his year by year, because 2024 and 2022 were both very similar years for him. 311 and 322 on the batting average, both years top 5 in baseball in strikeouts. He struck out more than 170 times in both 2022 and 2024.
Yeah.
But you think about what goes into that, right? You have a season where you're hitting 311 with 62 homers and 131 RBIs. Then you have another season where you hit 322 with 58 homers, 144 RBIs. and yet somehow you also find time to strike out 175 times. Like, it's a pretty uniquely like modern stat line in the sense that like he's a big 3 true outcomes guy.
The funny part about it is that like you can look at these stats in a funny way too, where like he's the only guy in baseball that has as many RBIs as he does strikeouts, like, or close, damn close to it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's, but again, to me, that's like, I want to preface this by saying this. If you told me I could swap any player in the Dodgers lineup for Aaron Judge going into the playoffs, the only guy that I would hesitate on is Shohei Ohtani, right? Mm-hmm. He's the only guy I'd even have to think. And with him, it's more like he's left-handed. I think there's value to that. He runs really well, like whatever, right?
Yep.
I'd still probably take Judge in my lineup heading into a playoff series, even if he's in the playoffs, over him, over anybody in the Dodgers lineup, right? So, like, I want to preface it by saying that. Like, we're nitpicking when we're trying to find something that's not overwhelmingly positive to say about Aaron Judge. But I also do think it is a real thing that in the postseason there is more swing and miss stuff, and he has a lot of swing and miss in his game.
Certainly.
And so I think, like, I do wonder if there is a, like, I wonder if that's solvable for him. I don't know if it is. Look, it's also every postseason is a new tiny sample size. This year, that might not matter. You don't know.
Yeah. And all it takes is once, right? All it takes is one postseason where he just rakes and that whole thing goes away. It goes away. So that's kind of funny. I texted you, I forget how long ago. It was last week at some point where I texted you and I said, like, Aaron Judge, like, Aaron Judge's unbelievable year, like his unbelievableness, okay, is actually bogged down because Shohei Ohtani exists on this planet. Like, that's, if Shohei Ohtani didn't pitch, Aaron Judge would be on the cover of every Major League Baseball thing in the world, and it's not even close. Like, I actually think, and you were just like, well, that's a funny thing to be upset about. I'm like, I'm not upset. I'm just saying, like, I think that's a real thing.
I mean, I think it, I guess to me, like, they're kind of both these godlike, larger than life figures in the game to me. And both of them just occupy such different spaces. Like, to me, Aaron Judge occupies this space of just like insane slugger. Like, I mean, he's, when, like, categorically, we're talking Barry Bonds, we're talking prime Albert Pujols. Like, he's, generational. Shohei Ohtani has been that at times, but has not been that as consistently as Judge. Shohei just provides other kinds of value that make him really unique, right? Where you're talking about the base stealing, the pitching, which will happen eventually. By the way, quick commentary on that, which I'm sure you love that. I'm sure you love that I'm talking about Shohei Ohtani right now. I actually really like that the Dodgers are slow playing his pitching so much, because I have a feeling that he's going to be like a dragon being unleashed in like August, September, October, and I'm excited for it. But that's neither here nor there.
He's going to come out throwing 104, like on every start, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Hey, way to weasel that in, Dalton. Appreciate it. Just. All righty. By the way, I do want to bring this up, and because what would a Yankee Aaron Judge segment not be if it weren't for a brief discussion about Juan Soto and how much he sucks now. I just kind of want to throw that out there for you, and we don't have to spend at all any distance on this really at all. But just because I'm a Yankee fan and I want you to humor me, doesn't Juan Soto suck now, Dalton? It's great, right? It's really, really great. He sucks. He hates being a Met. He hates it. Sucks now.
I don't know if I'd say that he hates being a Met, but I do think, like, I do think that Juan Soto is entering a new frontier that he might not have been ready for, which is, like, he's experienced what it's like to see. What's that?
Being the guy?
Well, I was going to say, I think he's experienced what it's like to succeed in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's getting to know what it's like to struggle in New York. And I think that that's a tough adjustment for some players to make. And I think he'll be fine. Like, I think by the end of the season, we're going to look up. He's going to be one of the top 5 hitters in the league. I'm not concerned about Juan Soto. But, I mean, those comments he made, like, if I'm a Mets fan, I'm pissed. Like, the fact that he's coming out here and making the excuse about Aaron Judge not hitting behind him anymore, dude, like, you got to shut your mouth.
Meanwhile, Pete Alonso has been phenomenal to start the season, by the way. By the way, like I said, I live in New York, so I heard all of the New York media heads, Sal Licata and Brandon Tierney and all these guys, but Brandon Tierney's a Yankee fan, but I heard all these guys say, like, Juan, like, you signed with us, like, please love us. Like,
Yeah.
The guy hasn't been a Met for a month, and he's already talking about how much he misses Aaron Judge. Oh,
Absolutely.
man. Okay. We can move on from that. I just needed to weasel that in there. Okay, so let's have this discussion, Dalton. So would you rather be a Rockies fan or a White Sox fan right now? That's the way the question gets posed. Right now, Chicago is 10-24. They're 11.5 games back in the AL Central. They are very firmly in last place at the moment. White Sox, again, with a historically bad season last year. They finished 10-20. They're 10-24 now. The Colorado Rockies, with the overwhelming lead for the worst record in baseball right now, they are 6-28, 17 games back of first place in the NL West. So you're saying there's a chance, but yeah, with the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and Diamondbacks in front of you, I give that a very grim chance. The Colorado Rockies are very, very bad. Like I said, 6-28 on the season. So, Dalton, let's make the case. Would you rather be, I'd rather shoot myself in the face, but would you rather be a Chicago White Sox fan or a Colorado Rockies fan right now?
So the reason I posed this question to you is because I think preseason, we just saw the White Sox set the record as the worst season ever last year, right? And I think preseason we're expecting, oh boy, this is going to be the worst team in baseball by a lot again. And they kind of haven't been. Their run differential is only -24. Like, the games that they've won, they've kind of blown teams out, which is pretty funny. I mean, they're really bad. Don't get me wrong.
They are bad.
But, like, these young starting pitchers have kind of been okay. Like, these guys they've been throwing out there. Yeah. And, like, you could make an argument that, like, they have a little bit of young talent that they're starting to build, and, they're going to get another good draft pick. And, like, I could see a world where the White Sox are not 10 years away and maybe 4 years away from figuring something out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, like, from a baseball perspective, I might choose the White Sox. But then I think, and I'm like, man, but do I want to go to games at Rate Field, which by all accounts is a pretty subpar ballpark on the south side of Chicago, and, like, exist in that environment? Or do I want to go to games in Denver at Coors Field, which is just one of the coolest ballparks in the majors, and root for a team that wears purple and has cool ass branding and their dinosaur mascot? And there's part of me that's like, man, being a Rockies fan, even though they're terrible, man, it sounds kind of fun. Go out to Coors Field all the time and hang out up at that top deck drinking Coors Lights. Like, at least being a Rockies fan, like, your team's bad, but you're going to have a good time. Being a White Sox fan, like, kind of sounds soul crushing. So I couldn't figure out how I wanted to answer the question. I think baseball wise, maybe White Sox. I think vibes wise, maybe Colorado.
Yeah. You bring up a good point about vibes. The Rockies are kind of like listen, if there's any Rocky fans listening right now, I apologize in advance, but, the Rockies are kind of like that lovable, like, minor league team. They're like the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs or something like that, where they have, like, a funny mascot, and you go there to get drunk, and like that's kind of the environment that you're in, right?
Yeah.
Where the White Sox, you're like, all right, you're in a bad part of town, right? The stadium's kind of, it's a baseball stadium, I guess, right? I've been to US Cellular or whatever they call it now, but it hasn't been US Cellular in a while, right? Like it's been
it's rate field now.
guaranteed rate field, and now
No,
it's
they
something
dropped
else.
the guaranteed. Now it's just rate field.
Now it's rate, now it's rate field. Okay. So it's really something over there too. It was so funny. So my experience going to a White Sox game was, so I use Game Time, free plug for them, by the way, to get all my tickets. I think it's the best
I
place
do
to buy
too,
tickets.
actually.
It's the best place to buy tickets. It really is.
Yeah.
And me, my dad, and my uncle we're on the stadium tour, so we're trying to go to all 30. We're almost there. We're about a third of the way there. But so we're going to Chicago. We went to Wrigley Field the day before. We go to the South Side to go see a White Sox game. Check it off the list, and we're buying tickets the day of. So I buy whatever. I got tickets for $45 a piece or something like that. And this was when the White Sox were not dreadfully bad. This was a few years ago where they were like they weren't good, but they were okay. And they ended up being like luxury box seats, like with waitress service and everything. Like, it ended up being a great experience just because of where the seats had pads on them. Like, it was great.
Yeah.
So it really was. It was like it's the equivalent of what the Delta Sky Club is in Minneapolis. We were in the White Sox version of that. I will say this though, the Delta Sky Club's way nicer. But so that was a pretty fun experience. But yes, I here's the thing. I think from a baseball perspective, I do kind of agree with you. I never took the White Sox as a team that's like afraid to spend money on certain occasions, right? Neither of the Rockies really, but like those teams will spend some money on players and stuff like that. I get all that. But certainly what it looks like right now, I kind of looked at it as an approach of the White Sox play in the AL Central in the American League, and the Rockies play in the toughest division in baseball in the National League, right? Like the Dodgers aren't going anywhere. The Padres aren't going anywhere. The D-backs, I certainly don't think are going anywhere. Like, where's the upside to be good in the next several years? So like, but I get it. Like from a vibes perspective, I do think that being a Rocky fan is probably a little bit more just decked out in all purple. I love that that fact by you, where it's just like they wear purple. Like that's kind of fun.
I mean, and honestly, like, so have you been to Coors Field?
I have, yeah.
It's awesome. Like the neighborhood around the ballpark is fun. You got rooftop bars, right? You get drunk faster because you're at elevation, and you just you hang out in that there's like the Smash Burger or whatever way up top, like the Coors Light back up in right field.
Yeah.
And you just hang out up there. You don't really watch the game. You just have some beers with your friends. You take in a beautiful Colorado sunset. They got that cool mountain scoreboard, right? Like it's a good vibe. And if you're going to go watch bad baseball, at least the Dodgers come into town for 2 series a year. Yeah. So,
like I said, man, the lovable minor league team.
Yeah.
Like everybody just thinks that they got cool uniforms and they suck, but they have a cool mascot and all that. The environment's cool. Yeah. I'm all for that. The only thing I don't like about Colorado, by the way, is I'm fat. So I can't breathe in Colorado. I'm one of those people that like needs the air can because I can't.
Get it, man. Yeah.
It's like people will say that you don't feel the difference up there. Yes, you do. Like I really, dude, I was going in there and I was like, whew, I'm like, these stairs are getting pretty hard to climb.
Oh yeah. If you're sitting way up top, oh yeah, you'll be breathing hard by the time you get up there.
Oh my God, it was awful. It really was. That was the only thing I disliked, really. And I hate flying. And I went to a game right after a flight. I was sick as a dog, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the environment was cool. I really should go there again, give it another chance. But okay. Let's give you another store update before we get into picks today. The Padres and Yankees right now, they're delayed right now in the fourth. The Yankees have a 2-0 lead. Trent Grisham, who has been on an absolute heater this year so far. The guy is essentially Mike Trout this year. I don't understand what it is, but Trent Grisham has been on fire. I think he already has more home runs this year than he had all of last year. So I love me some Trent Grisham. He's costing Jason Dominguez playing time, by the way. But right now, Yankees up 2-0 on the Padres in New York. They're delayed in the fourth. Dodgers with a 7-1 lead in Miami over the Marlins in the bottom of the eighth. The Atlanta Braves, like I said, have a 4-0 lead over the Cincinnati Reds in Atlanta right now in the bottom of the seventh. AJ Smith-Shawver has a no-hitter through 7 at the moment. That's something to watch. That game won't end while we're still on the air, but that's something to watch for tonight. The Royals right now with a 1-0 lead over the White Sox in the bottom of the fifth. Michael Garcia with an RBI in that game, giving the Royals a 1-0 lead. The Brewers right now 3-0 over the Astros heading into the sixth. The Cubs with a 4-2 lead over the Giants in Chicago heading into the sixth as well. And the Pirates right now with a 3-2 lead over the Cardinals heading into the bottom of the fifth. That's in St. Louis. And like I said, later on tonight, Mets, Diamondbacks, Griffin Canning, and Ryan Nelson. That's in Arizona tonight, as well as Seattle and the A's playing in Sacramento. Bryce Miller and Luis Severino on the bump for that. And then the Guardians-Nationals game got postponed due to bad weather today. All right, Dalton, you got picks for us today for Hot Corner? What do we got?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I had a very packed day today. I have not bet any baseball games today, but taking a quick look at the card, I'm kind of tempted by that under in Arizona between the Mets and Diamondbacks. Griffin Canning has been surprisingly good. The Mets pitching staff in general has been a huge surprise.
That won't last. Don't worry, it's the Mets.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm tempted by that under. Ryan Nelson is better than his numbers look. So that's worth a glance. Let me take a quick look at tomorrow as well. Let's see. Man, these Padres Yankees pitching matchups are pretty great. Michael King and Clark Schmidt tomorrow. Padres first 5 innings, I think in that one you can get them at -116. I think I'd take King over Schmidt there first 5. So
yep.
I'll put that one out there as well that I like.
Yeah, the Michael King Clark Schmidt matchup. Meanwhile, the Juan Soto potential frontliner matchup right there as the main trade piece back to San Diego.
And you know, I got to imagine Michael King will be a little extra pumped up tomorrow night.
I think Michael King is probably a little extra pumped up tomorrow. I think the Padres are a pretty good bet tomorrow night for a win, honestly. And I think Clark Schmidt's pretty good, but Michael King is outstanding, and I also think he's a Yankee next year. But that's neither here nor there. All right, that does it for us. Dalton, any parting words before we disperse for the evening?
Well, I just want to get there are a couple series I'm excited for. I'll just call them out for people who are looking for some good baseball to watch this week. This is something I just want to do a little bit more often, just because it's fun to highlight, the good series that we're looking forward to.
Yep.
Padres Yankees is one of them. We've touched on that. That's a really fun series in New York. Giants Cubs this week as well. A couple teams that I think are exceeding expectations. Cubs, by the way, are getting close to finishing out this portion of their schedule. As of I think next Monday, they're going to have played the hardest strength of schedule in baseball so far, and will have the easiest strength of schedule left the rest of the way. So I will be looking for a Cubs live win total bet at the end of this week.
I think 21-14 right now. They've done fairly well against that schedule.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that they're going to finish 93, 95 wins at this point. They also lead Major League Baseball in runs scored, which is pretty impressive. But so that's a fun series there. Mets Diamondbacks this week. Diamondbacks need to get going. They're in a tough division and they're hovering around 500. This is a massive week for them with the Mets and Dodgers coming into Arizona. Yep. So that'll be interesting to watch. Obviously over the weekend, Dodgers Diamondbacks will be pretty good. Cubs Mets, a couple teams off to hot starts. Phillies Guardians should be a pretty fun one. And there was one other that I wanted to touch on that I'm not locating right now. But fun week of baseball ahead. I'm going to try to get out to a Twins home game at some point this week. But yeah, that's all I got.
Who do the Twins have this week? The Twins have
They got
they
the
have
Orioles and Giants at home.
Orioles and Giants at home. Yeah. The Giants have been good. They have been.
Yeah. They've
stunned.
been good.
I'm honestly stunned. Their roster's not good.
I'll be honest. I'm not buying in on it continuing all season. I do think they're better than I thought they were. Maybe they sneak into a wild card spot, but I don't think they're this good. I'll say that.
You think the Diamondbacks finish ahead of them?
I still do. I just think they're a more well-rounded team.
I agree with you. All right. That does it for us. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. Like I said, we can no longer exclusively say that we're the only baseball podcast on the network, but we are here every Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern on the Grid Network, exclusively here. Again, we will see you next week. Enjoy the baseball. We'll see you.